Could we have a roll call?
Councilmember Hahn,
Here.
Folke,
Here.
Blackwell,
Here.
Hopkins,
Here.
Shipman, here, Von Bredhorst, here.
All right. Tonight's invocation will be given by Reverend Ian Ross, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance from Teresa, led by Teresa.
Let's pray. Almighty God, we pray for our city. We thank you for the wonderful people you have placed in it. We pray for our mayor and city council. Give them your health, strength, and wisdom as they serve our community. I pray for our first responders. We pray for protection for them. We pray for those in California impacted by the wildfires. Give them strength and resilience. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, are there any commission reports?
Yes.
And?
Am I commissioner or am I committee? Which one?
They're all the same.
Are they the same?
Pretty
No.
much.
Yeah. Okay. I'll start with I think both of mine are committee reports, but I'll jump to those if we're okay with that.
Okay.
Unless Margie wants to go with her commission report.
Yeah, the main thing I got from the Architectural Preservation Commission tonight is they need everyone to fill out the survey because they got such a crappy turnout. And so I think it's real easy to do. Everybody, we've got some cards around, you can help yourself to those. And I also was at the library meeting, and they're just busy as ever. And we've got the most active little library. I think it's a real asset to our community. They're checking out books like crazy and they use the meeting room 27 out of 31 days. Mostly it's used almost every day. And the latest thing is that Herbert Miller is giving computer classes at the library. On Mondays, people can come in with general questions, and then on Thursdays, this is from 1 to 2:30 on Thursdays, he does a little class. And so I'm taking it myself, and it's helping a lot, and he's just a great teacher, so it's really fun. So something you can always, and as Natasha knows, I need it. So everybody hustle down to the library if you have any computer questions at all.
Okay.
That's it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Weiser Economic Development met, and so we are still in the process of finalizing that third sign that Maverick had paid for when they purchased their building permit. We are in the process of finalizing our plans. Is that well, as a committee, we're finishing our goals, but the sign itself, we're just in the final stages of getting that final quote before we move forward with it and its placement. We are working on our goals as a committee, and so we're grateful for the team that we have. They're working hard on it, and we are going to, just so that you guys know, if you recall that grant that Lena Hafer presented to us, where part of the grant was to redevelop a logo, Weiser Economic Development Committee has decided to adopt that logo and adjust it ever so slightly with adding economic development, so that that wonderful work and service that they did can be used and implemented at some aspect of the city. So we're doing that.
Super.
Yeah. And then the other commission is going to be we had a public facilities meeting this last week, just a couple days ago. We've actually had two since the last meeting. And we are in the process of working through that grant that we received and how we want to spend it to improve Memorial Park.
Go ahead and say some details of that.
Okay, so as far as Memorial Park, what we're looking at doing is we're investigating the cost to add larger concrete pads that will allow people to gather for picnics and so forth. And we're also looking at the cost to put covering over top of it. We're also trying to find reasonably priced ways to cover the sitting area by the new park playground equipment that we just installed earlier this year. So we're trying to stretch that money as far as we can to provide as many different opportunities for our community to enjoy the parks. And so we are thinking, maybe this is too much detail, but we're thinking one large pad will be amazing, about 60 feet by 40 feet, where it will be able to be divided into 2 areas for 2 gatherings or opened up for one really large gathering. It will be covered and be close to the playground and also the tennis courts. So if you can visualize that over in that area. And then we're also looking at covering, like I said, the sitting area that's by the new playground equipment, that octagonal space there. So those are the big things that we're looking at. And then if there's money in addition, we have a lovely list of other requests that the community made through the survey that was part of that grant, including lighting and other things like that. So just trying to do what we can with our bucks to make it worth it.
But we're using the survey to find out what the community wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then trying to go from there and provide as much as we can that goes along with the intent of the grant, which was to help bring community together and provide for that social aspect of being community.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Would also like to just kind of get an idea from the council on moving forward. Time is of the essence on this grant. We don't have a very long period of time, and if we do any construction, and we do it ourselves in order to take and save time, it'll be stretched out a little bit. You know, if we hired somebody, it wouldn't take very much time at all, but the money would all be spent. And so, would the council want us to come back and get everything approved, or we have the committee, which is made up of 3 council people, plus some others in the community, who, you know, who are working on this? Would it be acceptable to use that committee's recommendation and go ahead, or does the council want to approve all the decisions?
I think we give the authority to the committee.
Because we're also trying to really take advantage of the weather we're having right now. Some of the pre-construction that needs to be done in the parks is some aligning of the sprinklers. And so if with this weather right now, we can take advantage of that, that would be huge.
So do we, as far as the conditions of the grant, do we run into any problem that way with giving up that authority, or do we do some kind of resolution saying that we're giving that authority to the committee, or?
We could do it either way. We could have a resolution at the next city council meeting.
Or we can also just say that we take the final project at the next city council meeting and approve it. And we would just authorize moving forward at this time.
And you'll have a dollar amount at that time too?
The grant was for $85,000, so it cannot exceed $85,000.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't have a problem with authorizing the committee to select the project or projects to be completed. I think that's reasonable.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll move forward then. Okay. Just a moment here while I scroll up. Next is department reports.
Reports for December 2024. We have 51 full-time employees and 4 part-time. The Weiser Police Department had 27 adult arrests, with 19 being misdemeanor, 8 being felony. We had 1 juvenile arrest being a misdemeanor. We had 42 citations, 15 misdemeanor, 26 infraction. There was 476 calls for service, 42 case reports, 8 felonies, 20 misdemeanor, 6 accident, and 8 incident. The City of Weiser Animal Control had 15 dog complaints. There was 15 impounded, 2 were returned to owners, 2 were adopted, 2 were transferred out. The City of Weiser Animal Control had 8 cat complaints, 11 impounded. They adopted 1, and we had 11 that went through the feral cat TNR program. 3 were transferred out, and Corey dealt with 2 wildlife. City of Weiser ordinance complaints, there was 1 abandoned vehicle, 1 parking. She did 2 VIN inspections, and there was 1 zoning. Wastewater Department, December flow for 2023 was $30,040,000. December's flow for 2024 was $31,290,000, which December's average daily average was $1,010,000. The wastewater department rebuilt a fan on the combo truck and fixed the leaking air system. They did annual maintenance on all mixer motors and the annual maintenance on all 36 bearings on the belt press. The water department water production for December 2023 was $13,217,000. December of 2024 was $13,457,000. And the total water production for 2024 was $269,849,000, which ended being $25,132,000 more than 2023. The water department installed insulation in the meter pits, finished rebuilding service at Magistrate Court, repaired the 2-inch service line due to damaged fire service main at the high school. The electric department's power consumption for November of 2023 was 4,685,547 kilowatts. November of 2024 was 4,765,684 kilowatts. The electric department helped the high school replace some parking lot lights, continued meter changeouts, ordered a new F-250 crew truck, should be here in 4 to 6 months, installed 37.5 foot pole mount style transformer at 308 East Park, and then they installed a 35-foot uplift pole in the backyard of 960 East 6th to move power line out of way of a new garage going in. The street department finished the leaf pickup, patched various potholes, spread sand and mag as needed to pre-treat the roads, helped with miscellaneous shop work, helped with Ho-Ho Express, and delivered soda to the assisted care facilities. They also continued maintaining the trench on East Commercial for the wastewater department. The recreation department, youth basketball is finished, ending with a great turnout. The second round of girls' youth basketball started this past week. Women's volleyball will start mid-January. They are currently taking registrations for co-ed volleyball. And indoor soccer will start mid-January, and all those practices will be held at the annex gym. The building department issued 1 building permit this last month, 1 commercial building alteration. Dave did 34 inspections and 7 consults. Mayor and City Council, that concludes your department report for December 2024.
You've all had a chance to look at the minutes to the last meeting. Are there any corrections?
Mayor, I move to approve the minutes of our regular meeting on December 9th, 2024 as written.
A second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passed. And has the Finance Committee had a chance to look at the bills?
Mayor, we have looked at their bills, reviewed them, and are ready to submit them for approval as is to you.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Von Redhorst,
Yes.
Chipman,
Yes.
Hahn,
Yes.
Hope,
Yes.
Blackwell,
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Okay. That concludes with the preliminary items. There's no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. And the first item on the list is a public hearing for the Bullard Comp Plan Amendment and Rezone. And so we'll open this public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to talk in favor of this comp plan amendment? Okay. Are there any neutral comments? Going once, going twice. Any negative comments? Okay. Having none, we'll close the public hearing. Number 2 is to consider the Bowler Camp comp plan amendment and rezone request. And
So it's my understanding that this is already, we've already approved it. This just changes the comprehensive plan to match what both we and the Planning and Zoning Commission
Yes,
have
that is
approved.
correct. It has already been passed through planning and zoning. The recommendation was through planning and zoning, then it has gone to city council. In the motion, it just needs to include the comprehensive plan amendment,
Okay, so are we making an amendment to our,
future use.
for our prior motion, or are we
You just need to do the motion completely over.
to accept
The
this.
kill- the- yep.
the comp plan and the zone change?
Yes, sir.
Because since we did a zone change, then it changes the comp plan.
Okay. So since we can't do that, then we have to do it over.
Right.
Okay.
Since we didn't change the comp plan when we did the rezone, we need to do it over.
And so we want to change all of it to B1, correct? B1 residential,
Yes.
instead of having B and C2 and C3.
Yep.
Mayor, I moved to approve the comprehensive plan and the zoning for the property on East Fourth behind by Martin Ridley's as requested.
Okay. Is there a second?
And so that request is to change it to B1 residential.
Correct.
Yeah, we just want to read the last sentence of the first paragraph. That's the motion. Not the highlighted, sorry.
Is that kind of what I said?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second. Whatever it was.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Chipman,
Yes.
Hoag,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Blackwell,
Yes.
Hahn,
Yes.
and Von Redhorst.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Third item on the agenda is to hear the audit report from our esteemed auditor, Mr. Kirk Folke.
All right, good evening, Mayor, City Council. Kirk Folke with Quest CPAs here to go over the audit with you. I think most of you I've met before, so anyway, good evening to you. Believe you have the audit there in front of you, and as we get into the audit, just first of all, just to let you know the audit did go very well. Your staff did a great job, all of them there. Great job of having the books and records in good shape and getting those to us to allow us to be able to get through and be able to get to this successful audit right here. So, all right, here in the report, there are two reports from us as the auditors to you as the City Council. The first one is on pages 1, 2, and 3. And all it's telling us right here on this first report, pages 1, 2, and 3, is that we've audited the numbers that we're going to look at here in just a moment. We believe they're accurate, and we can rely upon them to make decisions. It's referred to as an unmodified opinion, which is the best you can get. Sorry, pages 1, pages 2, and pages 3. It's a very long and lengthy report there.
I guess they're just not in here unless I'm in that spot. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Mine started on page 5 or something.
It wasn't super interesting.
Okay, Kurt, I'll take the.
Okay.
Mr. Folke, is that microphone on?
I bet it's not, you're right. Thank you so much. Does that sound, there we go,
Oh, there we
thank
go.
you. All right, the second report is on pages 40 and 41. And that second report there says that while we're doing the financial statement audit, we're looking to make sure that the city has the basic internal controls that cities should have. These are the checks and balances as such as doing its bank reconciliations and reviewing them, keeping supporting documentation for its expenditures and payroll transactions. And that it also has the basic compliance that Idaho code requires for governments here in Idaho. These are things like going through your budgeting process, keeping commissioner minutes, and a whole host of other things. If we notice some of those items are not present, we report findings here. There is no findings in this report, so that's a good thing, but if there is, we go over those, and then you as the council would take action on that. All right. If we want to shift over now and kind of look and see how we perform financially, that's always kind of a little bit more interesting part, at least it was for an accountant. Starts on page 9. And there on page 9, what we'll be looking at is the governmental funds, your largest governmental funds. And it's kind of a summary of how we performed for the last 12 months ended September 30th, 2024. What it's showing is the revenues at the top, the expenditures in the center, and the third figure from the bottom, that is the net change in fund balance. You can kind of think about that as your net income or net loss. And then your very bottom figure is your ending fund balance. That's your reserves coming into this new fiscal year that we're operating in now. And what you'll see as we go through this is the city did have a very positive year, worked very hard, stayed in budget, and has, for the most part, has had surpluses across the board. So if we start there in the left column, you'll see the general fund, and the third figure from the bottom is a positive $590,967. So covered all current year expenditures with current year revenues and was able to add that to your ending fund balance or reserves. One thing I would point out is that entire net change in fund balance or increase this year was brought about, of course, on top of good budgetary control and everything else, but if you see in that left column, fourth figure from the top, investment return, $807,177. Very high investment return this year. LGIP and your other investments had really good rates this year. Haven't really seen rates that good since, at least I haven't, since the early 2000s. So that made a whole bunch for the city. So you worked very hard to keep them invested and it paid off. So just wanted to point that out because we certainly can't count on that every year. Very bottom figure in that left column is your reserves, $4,193,117. We like to measure that in terms of an operating reserve. Where are you at? And that's about a 14-month operating reserve. The general fund, we like to see that it has about 12 months up an operating reserve, 6 months just for basic cash flow and 6 months to add a little bit of contingency room, because the general fund is, if any other funds are struggling, that's your only real discretionary fund, if you will. And so you've got that 12 months plus a little bit more, so you're in good shape there. All right, next fund to the right, street fund. You'll see that one also had a net increase this year, $303,755. So it's doing well, and it has ending fund balance $2,536,626. It's on a pretty strong point right now. It's got some projects, we were just talking about this a little while ago. It's got some projects in the future that'll probably spend some of that down, but it's sitting at about a 2-year reserve. I hesitate to call that an operating reserve because it's certainly some of it's set aside for capital projects on the streets, but long story short, it's doing good. I'm not sure if I'm whistling or this is making a little bit of loud noise.
Yeah, it's.
Is it? Is it okay?
You're just so strong in your voice.
Thank you. Okay. I'm not sure if it's all that, but long story short, let's see. Next fund to the right, library fund, third figure from the bottom, you'll see that one just had a little bit of a net increase this year, $1,429. They're doing really good. They've got a really strong fund balance. You'll see the bottom, $432,627. That's almost a 2-year reserve, so they're definitely on the strong side. They've done a great job of building that up and should be in really good shape, barring almost anything, so hopefully. Last fund there on the right, capital maintenance fund. This is the fund the city's built up a number of years ago, and it kind of uses for a number of projects throughout the city. Mayor was talking about this a little while ago. He's talking about some different projects you've got set aside for the city hall and the library and things like that. So you will probably see some expenditures out of here this next year, but this last year, almost no activity, just a little bit of revenue came in. Must be getting boring really quick, I'm not sure. Real quick, if we go back to page 36, we can see your smaller governmental funds. Again, page 36. And back on page 36, what we're looking at right there is same basic format to the page, gives us a quick summary of how we performed. And the left column is your tort fund. You'll see this one does have a decrease, $53,766. That was intentional. The fund balance was larger than what you needed. And so you were spending that down, kind of decreased the levy to kind of make that all work. And your ending fund balance there in the tort fund is at about a 7-month operating reserve. I think your target was about 6 months, so you're probably going to level off there. It sounded like that's what your city had done. They budgeted kind of break even in this fund now. So that had been a couple years in process to kind of get that to where you wanted it to be. Recreation fund, third figure from the bottom, $34,255 increase. That one is good to see. Recreation funds are all over the board, city to city. If you look at 10 different cities, half will be losses, half will be profits. You know, it's a tough fund. It all depends on what's going on in those programs, but it can be a tough one. You guys did good. And ending fund balance down there, $145,345. That's about an 8.5 month operating reserve. We need to have about 6 months to be able to cash flow it well, and you're there, plus some. Last fund there, airport fund, just had a little bit of an increase this year, $1,843. And your fund balance, your bottom figure, $281,298. Very strong. You typically use some of that for some of the grants and projects that you have going on at the airport. So it's not just an operational reserve, because it'd be a very large operational reserve. A lot of it's for capital projects and grants and things like that. So all your governmental funds are doing good. No concern areas right there. And then last thing to glance at is just how are your enterprise funds doing? Those are on page 14. And there on page 14 is a quick reminder, the format's a little bit different on the page here because enterprise funds are supposed to be reported on what's called the full accrual basis of accounting. But we still want to concentrate on that third figure from the bottom in terms of telling us are we covering all our costs or not. And so as you'll see, left column's water fund, the next one's sewer fund, then electric, and then garbage. And you'll see the third figure from the bottom is positive in all those funds. Very positive performance here across the board. I would highlight a couple things. Water fund is the left column, and the third figure from the bottom is $607,284. Looks really rosy, but the majority of that came from a grant, not for charges for services. And that grant revenue is about halfway up the page in the left column, $482,004. That was the remaining ARPA funds that you were using on the water project there. So without that, it would have been, it'd been in the positive, but not near as large. And then sewer fund, next fund to the right, positive $65,914, so doing fine and doing well there. Electric fund has historically done very, very well here at the city. You can see that $640,416. There is some revenues there in the electric fund. I was talking to Mike about this earlier, and we've been able to count on them for a few years, but they're kind of tailoring those off. We're not really sure exactly what the future is going to look like. Some of the Bonneville power rebate income. So may not look as rosy. In fact, I'm sure it won't next year as it does this year, but it's been nice while it's lasted. And then last on the right, garbage fund, you see that one had a net increase, $40,475. So doing good there. So big takeaway, financially, city's doing well across the board, both reserves and 1 year performance. So no concern areas from my perspective. Anything you'd like me to go into more detail or any questions?
I've got a couple.
Yes, please.
Sorry, okay, so staying on page 14, I just want to talk about the grant revenue for just a minute. So,
Yeah.
so is there an offsetting expense for that grant revenue?
Yeah, great question, great question. So, Councilman's mentioning there, in the left column, halfway down, we see grant revenue, $482,004. And he's saying, okay, we brought it in, but did we spend it out? Because we're not seeing the expense. Great question. So as I mentioned right at the beginning, these funds are what's called the full accrual basis of accounting. One of the nuances of that is when we spend money on a capital project, we don't see that expense directly on this page that year. Instead, it goes into capital asset account. Let's say it's specifically that project is
The water tower.
the water tower, capital asset, exactly. And so it goes into this schedule the city keeps, capital asset records, and it said, this isn't the dollar amount because there's more, but let's say that the project costs $482,004. It does not show up as an expense this year. Instead, it goes on that capital asset schedule and gets depreciated over the next, say, I don't know, 30 years or whatever the life is of that. So none of it, or virtually none of that expense shows up this year. Makes us look very strong this year, even though we spent that full $482,000. And where you will see that expense is starting next year and then the next 29 years, you'll start seeing that in depreciation expense, which is about a third of the way down the page, $442,844. The other way you can kind of clue into that is if you go to page 16, but this is a statement of cash flow. It's kind of hard to get a lot of meaning out of it because there's just a ton of numbers going every which direction. But it does kind of tell you about halfway down this page, there's a line that says change in cash and investments. And the left column is parentheses $615,203. Left column, halfway down. That means we actually, even though we had a profit of approximately that same amount, in the range of $600,000, we actually turned around, spent all that profit and another $600,000 on water projects and other things this year. Specifically, about a third of the way down that page, on the left side, you'll see a line item that says acquisition of capital assets, $1,092,867. So that was the water tower and a whole bunch of other associated things. So that was a long way of saying you won't see that expense on that page this year. It gets depreciated over future years. And sometimes you can dive into this statement of cash flows to kind of see, wow, we're actually taking all that money and turning around and reinvesting it into the system, plus some years, depending on what's going on.
Okay, so does, just help me out, I'm trying to get in my mind, how does that impact the balance sheet? Because we showed the cash coming in, but we didn't show the money that we actually spent.
Yeah, let's see what we can make sense of on there. Let's go to the balance sheet on page 12. If I'm not answering your question, let me know, but we'll keep working towards it. Page 12, left column is our water fund. When we spent that $1 million this year, which was the $482,000 grant and then a whole bunch of other capital projects, what happened to that expense? Because we didn't see it on the operating statement. So where did it go? Left column, about a third of the way down the page, is a figure, $5,416,212. It says, the description is depreciable net capital assets. That's where that $1 million went. It goes into, that's the holding account, if you will, the capital assets, and it will start wearing away, getting smaller as we depreciate that figure down over time. So that's how it affected the balance sheet. It moved, it went away as an expense and got plopped on the balance sheet as a capital asset, and will start depreciating down over time.
Okay, to offset by the depreciation then, is that?
Yeah, that's
that's
exactly correct. Yeah, it'll be offset, yeah, exactly, each year. So then, let's say next year we write off $10,000 of it. You'll see this account, the depreciable net capital assets, will be reduced by $10,000, accumulated depreciation, and you'll see depreciation expense on the operating statement bump up by $10,000.
Okay, all right, so I was just,
Hey, you're tracking
in my
it.
mind,
No, you're good.
I was just thinking, okay, we spent the money, but we don't show it as an expense, so
Yeah.
does that impact cash? But I
Yeah.
can see that, thank you for that that explanation. On page 4, let's see here if I get my unearned grant revenue of $1,791,430 as an expense. Is that the same basic?
Similar
Premise?
concept,
Okay.
similar concept, it's a great question, because that's a very sizable grant. So you folks received, along with a bunch of other cities in Idaho, received, the name of the grant skips my mind, but it's that, Mike, we were just talking about that state grant that you received, and you're gonna be using it in future years. But basically, most of our grants, a lot of our federal grants, they're reimbursement based, so you don't even have to deal with this kind of silly accounting. But when you receive a significant grant in advance, it will distort earnings if we treat it all as revenue in the year we receive it, but don't spend it, and then the following years we spend it, but have received it in prior years. Your fund balance, it looks really good the first year, it looks terrible the next, messes up your budget, confuses everybody. So the appropriate accounting for that is, if we've received a grant, and it, significant grants, not little grants, but significant grant in advance, then we're supposed to put it, again, kind of a holding account, and the fancy word for it is unearned grant revenue. It's sitting in cash, and it's sitting in unearned grant revenue. That's the kind of the two offsets. So we receive the money, so it's sitting in cash and unearned grant revenue. As we spend that money in the future, we'll see the expense, and we'll see the revenue, and the revenue will start getting eroded out of this unearned grant revenue as it's spent, so that the earnings match up. The grant revenue and the grant expenses match up, and that doesn't distort your earnings otherwise.
So then on the assets, that shows it's part of cash and offset by the liability because it's not really cash.
That's correct. That's correct. We're not counting our chickens before they hatch, in the sense, we're not putting that in our fund balance.
Okay.
Yeah, each grant's different, but most grants, ultimately, if you don't spend, died out on this. I'll just try to inflate my voice, but most grants, if you don't spend them, a lot of times we have to return them. Now, that doesn't happen very often, but we're intentionally doing it this way so that we're not distorting our fund balance. We're not saying, oh, the money's ours, but in reality, it's not. We have to spend it on that project, so.
Okay.
And that does show up on the budget this year, is that $1.8 million negative in the street department.
Okay, all right.
Did I understand?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wrote these down on a separate piece of paper, so that's why I'm struggling here.
Very good.
Pages 8 and 9. Let's see, miscellaneous. No, I can't find that. Miscellaneous revenues of the street fund were $762,000. Maybe that's on page 9. I was just wondering what that consisted of, and I can't find it again, so maybe we'll skip that.
No, I think your question's actually good. I think you nailed it. It's actually on page 9.
Okay.
And the street fund has miscellaneous and grant revenue, maybe?
Yes, miscellaneous and grants. Yes.
Yeah. There may be some grants in there, I don't remember, I don't have the breakdown in front of me, but, okay, sorry about that. But you've got another thing in there. You've got the, sorry, I don't mean to call it. Do you remember the ITD, not ITD, sorry.
The streets.
Yeah, the street money that that the city intentionally budgeted in the miscellaneous column. I'm trying to remember what that was.
Child pedestrian safety grant.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
It's part of it, but there's another type of,
Was it
It was an LTAC
the
grant.
block grant for the parks and those? No,
Um,
that's
it's some extra, the intergovernmental revenue we get in the streets?
oh, yes,
We got a higher tax.
There's some extra money we've got for a few years.
from sales tax.
From sales tax, and so it's put in there, you budget it as miscellaneous. I believe the thought process, I guess, was on that is you've got it just for a couple of years, it's not something you're gonna wanna count going forward, so you're putting it in there as miscellaneous in that column.
Okay, so that's what I just couldn't imagine what
It was that big.
miscellaneous income was for the street department.
And we were not in any way prepared to receive it this year. It was completely
Right, okay.
new. So it wasn't in the budget.
Okay, and I know I've asked you this before, and
It's okay.
but I've slept since I did. My annual question about the state pension fund and how that impacts our, so how did we do this year?
Yeah, let's take a look. Page 34. So the question, I believe, is how is the pension plan doing? And we're in this together with all the governments and the state of Idaho. It's the PERSI plan, and kind of just looking to see, hey, how funded is the plan? You know, for every dollar that we're projected to owe out to retirees, how funded is that? How much do we have in the piggy bank, for lack of a better word, or trust fund? If you look right column on page 34, and it's about halfway down, bottom figure in the right column that's about halfway down, sorry, a lot of numbers here. The percentage you're looking at is 85.54. That's the most current figure measured as of June 30th, 2024. It's about 6 months older, and supposedly it's still going up. Supposed to be getting even better as the days go on, but you never know what the future holds. It's all based on the stock market, for the most part. Anyway, so we ticked up about 2%. So we look a little bit better this year than we did last year.
Right, and then, then there's doesn't that difference, doesn't it show as a liability on our balance sheet?
Oh, yeah,
somewhere?
it does. So what does that mean? Well, it means a number of things, but basically it means for every dollar that we have, we and everybody else in the state of Idaho that pulls into PERSI, that we are projected to owe out to retirees, we have 85 cents in the trust fund, which means there's a liability because it's not fully funded. So then that translates onto our balance sheets. And the best page, well, let's see here. It gets muddled pretty quick. These get combined with other things. Let's see, let's go to page 25. This is a note disclosure, but it's the best place to look at it. Yeah, actually, I think it is, because it even shows you the different, how it changed from the prior year. So about halfway down page 25 is a table. And it shows a beginning balance on the left side. It's called the changes and long-term liabilities. But the beginning balance is on the left side, and then not the far right column, but the second to the far right column is the ending balance. And you'll see the second row down is the net pension liability for the governmental funds, all your governmental funds. And it started at $1,559,238, and it decreased because our pension, we're a little bit better funded. So we were 83% the year before, now we're at 85%, a little more funded, so you're seeing your portion of the net pension liability decreased. You're in a better position, your liability went down. So you'll see the ending balance is now for your governmental funds $1,399,076. And then the same can be seen, third figure from the bottom in that same table, net pension liability, beginning balance was $1,160,523, and it decreased by $119,207 to $1,041,316. Those are all your business type, water, sewer, all those. So you're in a better position than you were a year ago.
But there's still $2.4 million in debt showing on our balance sheet that's, you know, it would have, something catastrophic would have to happen for us to actually owe that.
Basically, what would have to happen is that all of our retired people retire at once and then live out their full longevity.
And then nobody else take their place, right?
Exactly. So,
And everything
Yeah.
stopped, like the stock market stopped, you know, it produced exactly what it is today, and like Mayor said, everything kind of stopped,
Right.
boom, you know.
Because that's a big number on our, as a percentage of our liabilities. Fairly far-fetched that we would ever have to pay that.
You're correct. You're absolutely correct. Well, I don't know if it makes us feel better or not, but statewide, it's in the billions. And even scarier is we're one of the best funded ones in the nation. Idaho is. Idaho and Oregon are the two best in the nation, so.
Well, let me know if that's gonna happen, because I want to retire first.
Right?
Okay, then, sorry, I swear I'm almost done here. On page 19, on the waterfront capital expenditure, I'm assuming that's the second part of the water tank refurbish. Is that
Where are you at?
Sorry, which page?
page 19? Or maybe I'm off. It was page 19 on something I was looking at.
16 maybe? Is it?
There we go. It's Natasha giving me copies of stuff and putting different pages on it. So
I
I'll
didn't
be
give you that copy,
confused.
so, I mean, that was my.
Oh, you're innocent?
I mean, this time it's not me.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yeah,
There
if it was
was-
water fund, it would be.
It would be that
Yeah,
water tank, yeah.
You're correct.
Okay. Okay, I'm done now.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I think you were pretty thorough there.
Larry got them all, every one of them.
All right, well, thank you. And I said this earlier, but we really appreciate your help and your professionalism. You're great to work with, Kirk, and appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Kirk, does Quest get to be our auditor forever? Or do you guys have to do
As
a
long as you
5-year
keep us around, I
rotation?
guess, so.
Yeah, because I think the schools have to change every 5 years.
Well, that's a
Something
public
like that.
company requirement.
A public company
But
requirement,
yeah,
okay.
your thinking is correct, yeah, yeah, we had, what was that, Arthur Anderson to thank for that, but those poor guys aren't around yet anymore, so.
Okay, so we're good for a while.
Yes,
Okay, good to know, thank you.
thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great evening.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
Kirk. Mayor, if I might, I just wanted to say thank you to the folks that, you know, our employees and our managers in the city offices, because it is because of them that the numbers look like they do. It makes it's a lot easier to sit in these chairs with numbers that are positive than the other way around, and we have them to thank, and so please accept my congratulations. This is a great report.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I agree, they are an exceptional bunch and great to work with.
Do you need a motion that we accept
Yes.
the audit?
Yes.
I so move that we accept the audit report from Kirk Folke.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, we can. Councilmember Blackwell,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Von Bredhorst,
Yes.
Hahn,
Yes.
Chipman,
Yes,
and Hoag.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's the second time I've been called first. I just want you to know. I'm writing it in my journal.
pay her off or something to get
So Sherry, before we continue, can you hear, what of these microphones do you need on? Because the one at the podium's not working.
I can actually hear him pretty well at there.
Okay, then I'm not gonna worry about turning it on so we don't have the echo.
Yeah, I think we're
Okay.
good.
Okay. Moving on from there, it is that time of year for the city council to elect a council chair. And so we'll open it up to nominations.
Are you okay doing it still?
I don't mind doing that.
Herb, did you enjoy it?
Yes,
I nominate Mr. Hahn.
I enjoyed it.
I second.
I enjoyed it mostly when he was here, but
But I had to take some time off this year, and Herb stepped in and did a wonderful job and worked well with everyone. You know, he only tried to reverse about half the things that I was trying to do, but, you know, he did a wonderful job. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I close nominations. All in favor of Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
What else can we let you do?
Okay,
I need to do more than I did last year.
the next item on the agenda is to approve the mayor, city council committee appointments, and you received the list of those appointments. Is there any discussion, or anyone want to amend anything?
Oh, we get that chance?
Yes. I called you.
Mayor, I'd move to approve the appointments, committee appointments as written here.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, you guys are stuck. Okay, next item on the agenda is to approve the mayor's board and commission appointments to include Rebecca Hale and Josh Dolton. And Rebecca, since you're here, would you mind just standing up and letting everyone know who you are?
Good evening. I see a lot of familiar faces here. I was born in Weiser, raised here, graduated high school, left after college, spent almost 40 years in Seattle, and in June of 22 I moved back, and I'm thrilled to be back in my hometown, and I'm looking forward to deepening my involvement in the community through planning and zoning.
Well, thank you. It's especially appreciated since it's planning and zoning. Okay. Have you all had a chance to look at the commission appointments? And are there any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I have a motion that we would approve the board and commission appointments to include Rebecca Hale and Josh Dolton and the others as submitted.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passed.
Mike?
I think it was Mike. Okay, next on the agenda is to consider amending City Code 4-8-1 to allow temporary storage containers in commercial zones. And this is for consideration only.
So if we do make a motion to consider, then it would go to committee for further,
Yes.
It would go to planning and zoning.
go back.
We'll have to see what the exact, I think it would go to committee first.
Oh, it would go, okay.
I think it would go to committee and then to,
And then back to, or to planning and zoning after our committee.
I'll have to look at the exact steps, but first it would go to committee. So just to give some backstory, so Williams' property that is in a commercial zone had started putting containers on the property, so they were sent a letter letting them know that they were in violation of 2 city codes. One, having not gone through the conditional use permit to have a storage unit facility there, and second being that they were having temporary storage containers that goes against the code. They're not allowed in city limits without an active building permit and with a permit for themselves. So in answer to that letter, they were going to be here tonight, and then they had some prior arrangements, obligations that they were unable to. So they did send kind of a picture of what they would be proposing if it is considered that we review the code. They're going to form what you call a fence, a border around the property. So this would what you saw from the streets.
Yeah, there was, Mayor, as I recall, the reason that this came into being was there was some concern at the time that I won't call it misuse, but use of those containers for other than storing stuff.
meth labs, things like that, or?
Well,
People do.
like housing. And there was some concern about that, and like the mayor said, we spent, gosh, almost a year composing the, you know, the ordinance that you see, and after about 2 weeks, we started redoing it, because everybody was going to sue us. And I said, hadn't been on the city council very long, and I remember thinking, boy, this is a lot of fun. But anyway, that's the genesis of the ordinance to begin with, was a concern that you know, that people were, and before we had no ordinance concerning them, so that was the you know, what started the whole process.
And most of what you see now was grandfathered in at the time, you know, they were already existing. And so those were allowed to be kept, but we tried to make sure that we don't have storage units all over town.
And so just to clarify a little bit further, the request for the review is to allow them in commercial zoned property only, not to have anything.
Not residential.
Not residential of any means, so.
And so by our zoning, we're talking about commercial and then C1, C2. Would that include industrial as well, or just?
That would all be stipulations you set if you wish to review it
Yeah.
and make amendments to the code.
Okay.
Those would all be things you would take into consideration.
So Natasha, since the ordinance has been in place, have we had much other in the way of complaints, or that it's been a hardship for others?
I think the majority of the requests we've had have been people who do have active building permits. And there have been quite a few people who came in and got permits. And I really haven't felt that there's been a lot of violation in the time that is allotted, which is 90 days, with an active building permit, I believe. 60 or 90. But I think for the most part, people have been compliant with that.
I've had a handful of people ask to put them in for permanent storage,
Yeah.
Residential or commercial?
residential.
Residential. Would you mind, can you pull up the zoning map, just so that we have a reference of, so visually, I don't know about you, I like the visuals, but visually, so we understand what that would be impacting.
And I can't make it any bigger, and I apologize. So the property in question is at the right-hand side of the screen, where it's the D. So,
Just
wish I had a pointer.
That's what I said.
You need a laser pointer, or you need to be taller. one or the
Oh.
other.
Maybe I just need to say city down.
Yeah, so bottom right-hand corner where we see park, right?
Yeah,
There's
so
B.
up there you'd see D, and then it's surrounded by C3, and then above it is C. So this property is actually located in that C, and I have a better picture, it's just not the zoning map.
Oh, there you go, use your pointer, you can see.
So,
And that is where Beyond Barbell just moved, correct?
that is across the street.
That's across the street, so
So the
on the
property
other
in
side,
question
okay.
is
Behind.
this one right here.
It's just south of the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
cafe here.
Yeah,
So-
okay,
I'll show it in.
okay.
A little what?
Down the bottom left, is there all everything on the
Between-
left? That one,
Yeah.
go over and hit the little eye to the right, and
Low
it'll
by 5 foods.
bring it up and.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
And
So-
consider that this is the gateway to our town too.
So it's this property here.
So the property across the street is county?
Yes.
And they're already able to do that, because I've seen them lining them up?
Yeah.
So they're trying to match that on the other side? Okay.
So, and I don't mean to keep repeating, but the only thing that needs to
Yeah,
be decided.
just whether we want it commercial or not,
Yep.
that's all we're thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess what I would like to see, if you could go back to the zoning, because for me, I need the overall picture, like, Yes, a reconsideration means all that is C1, C2, and then just plain C or C3, but not B, is that correct? Because B is our residential?
B is residential.
Okay.
Well, that's the request, but
Right.
we could actually
You
go
can amend it to
everywhere
whatever you want.
from ending up not changing it to throwing the whole thing out.
Oh, sure, yeah. I'm just thinking of what they're considering us to do. What is
Yeah.
the original request is for commercial to allow, so in those areas there, they're desiring the use of shipping containers. So I'm just, okay.
So would, to reconsider that, our ordinance, then go to committee, who would make a recommendation back as something to then go to P and Z?
I'd have to get a hold of Bruce
Okay.
to get the exact.
Anyway, it would at least go to our committee, I'm assuming which committee are we talking about?
The planning and zoning committee.
Is the zoning committee?
Yeah.
Can we go back a couple of spots?
No, Larry, you're on that committee.
Have we finalized our impact zone and made that recommendation, like,
No, it hasn't been finalized.
it hasn't been finalized yet? So at this time, we still have that corridor, 95 corridor, that's in our impact zone?
Yes.
Well, I tell you, I just don't know what to recommend. On the one hand, it shouldn't hurt to take a look at any of our ordinances.
Might,
But-
yeah, no.
But it's, I hate to say, recommend that we do that if there's not if the likelihood is we won't make any changes. But I guess even if we don't make any changes, it doesn't hurt for us to look and make sure it is how we want it to be. The business that is there is operating, other than than maybe not knowing that they couldn't have those storage units or those portable units on the property. Otherwise, within our codes, I don't think it hurts for us to look at it and see, at least think about what, whether things have changed or not since we put that into motion. It's probably, so we've had that, have we had it 10 years?
No.
Six or
6
seven.
or 7. So, it hasn't come up again, but
Do you recall when council was originally talking about it, if they had considered only preventing them in residential, or what was the reasoning behind it being all of city limits? Was it for ease of tracking, or?
no, I think it was more fear of appearance sake, having, we thought that it was, we didn't want to turn into a city of
Storage units.
portable storage units.
Which we do have quite a bit of commercial property throughout
Right.
our city,
So,
and we have to take into consideration what it's gonna look like every place besides just here too.
Right.
Right, that's a commercial, that area is turning into more of a retail area, and if you tie it up with storage units, we have a very limited amount of space out there. Yeah, so I think that ought to be taken into consideration.
I guess I wouldn't be opposed to going to committee and taking a look at it as long as we look at the whole city, what we try and foresee that this would do. I wouldn't be opposed to going to committee and taking a look. Am I on that committee? Yes, I am.
And could I throw a caveat in there? That at least they cease developing it in the meantime?
I believe they have.
Okay.
I believe they have. I think once we send them the notice,
Okay.
I have not seen any new movement there.
Okay, but we might want to stipulate that.
Yeah, I think-
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
It just says, we have the ability, if we choose, as a committee and whatever recommendation to say, maybe not C, but maybe C3. And then they would be able, whoever wanted to might be able to petition to be C3 or something, or something else like that. Yeah, no.
Yes, there's endless possibilities.
Yeah.
We could make it, make a provision that allows a conditional use permit for more than 90 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And leave the rest of it the same. We could, like I said, there's 1,000 things we could do, but I'm telling you, it's a lot of work.
Everything is.
You're opening a can of worms.
Well, but that's also our job,
Yep.
right? That's
Checking
why we
out
were elected, to
Checking
review.
That's why we get the big bucks.
present day standards. To check it out and look at it again in light of present day considerations and how
Right.
horrific those containers are.
Yeah.
Really.
So are we needing to make a motion to open the discussion or to ask the committee to search into this?
Yeah.
What,
The motion would be just that you,
that we will consider
you-
amending it?
yeah, that you agree to review the city code.
And to stipulate that,
With the stipulation that they may not further develop or until we've reached a decision, right? Okay.
So was that the motion?
Oh, I was just clarifying what it was, in case someone wants to say it.
Well, before we review it anymore.
Okay, chickens, here we go. I motion that we consider amending City Code 481 to allow temporary storage containers in commercial zones with the stipulation that they are not allowed to further develop until we reach updated decision.
it's been moved, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Hopkins,
Yes.
Von Bredhorst,
Yes.
Pope,
Yes.
Han,
Yes,
Chipman,
Yes,
Blackwell.
Where I belong.
The next item on the agenda is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign CDBG RFF number 3 request for funds. And Tasha, could you explain what that is?
Nope, Mike can.
I can. So what this is the stipulation of this grant is we pay them and then we have to request for reimbursement of the funds. So signing this just lets us get our funds back that we've spent.
On which grant?
Oh, for the park playground equipment, sorry.
Okay.
so I'll make a motion that we approve the mayor to sign CDBG RFF number 3 request for funds.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Hoag,
Yes.
Han,
Yes,
Chipman,
yes,
Blackwell,
Yes.
Von Bredhorst,
Yes.
and Hopkins.
Yes.
Okay, and related to that, approve and authorize the mayor to sign Weiser Park closeout.
So after we get the funds, we have to sign a closeout form after the funds have been received. Same.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we approve and authorize the mayor to sign Weiser Park closeout action, oh, I mean, not action, it is an action item, and that's why I'm making a motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next item is to consider Idaho coin and exchange pawn license. And Chief, would you mind coming forward?
Chief Carl Smith, Weiser Police Department.
It's not on.
Mayor, City Council. Okay. Reference this renewable license for them. I have no opposition to that.
So they've had this,
They have.
okay.
It just expired and they didn't renew it in time. So they haven't been doing any pawns or since then. They've still been open for business, but not pawning anything.
Okay.
So I make a motion that we approve the application for Idaho Coin Exchange Bond license.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. And then also before you, you have proposed changes to the city's fire contract with the rural fire district. And you've had a chance to take a look at those. And are there any questions?
I didn't have the first one memorized, so can someone give me the Reader's Digest of the biggest differences that we've made in this adjustment? Or what, because I was not able to identify what looks different.
Okay. And I'm not sure.
So my reading of this is that it was more of a suggestion that certain sections needed to be changed rather than what specifically those changes should be.
So from my understanding, this is everything that we went over when we had the meeting with them. And it was kind of at the meeting, kind of already agreed upon. This is just putting it into writing. And then as soon as we put it into writing, pass it with an action item, then we can send it to their attorney can review it. So that's basically everything that was talked about when we had the
Okay.
joint discussion with them.
Okay.
It's not really anything new that wasn't already discussed at that meeting.
Right. Right. And I went through and I looked at all of the changes myself and didn't see anything
I
that
didn't see anything that stood out to me,
jumped
so
out. Yeah.
not to look ignorant, but I was going, what did I just read?
Yeah.
How is this any different? So
Yeah.
if there was verbiage change, it wasn't blatant enough for making me to go,
Yeah. And what this does is points out places where language is ambiguous that we need to take and
okay.
and firm up exactly what we're talking about.
So the idea here is for the rural fire department's attorney to review these, and if they agree with all of those, then to set about changing the specific language. Is that?
Yes, and then the contract would reflect that, and then the mayor would be we would take to council, authorize the mayor to sign a new contract.
Okay. So our action item here is to approve the changes as submitted for the fire code contract and authorize to send it to the fire department.
Yep.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved to
Perfect.
moved and seconded.
That's exactly what I was going for. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay. Next item on the agenda is to consider amending City Code 10-17-1, adding animal shelter to permitted uses. And I take it there's probably someone from the animal shelter?
If we need be, so again, this is just, to ask the council whether they wanna entertain the idea to consider, as of right now, reviewing the code, I'm sorry. And the code, this code here is for, the zoning for industrial. So, as of right now, there is nowhere in any code or zone or anything that an animal shelter is permitted. So with the animal shelter trying to find a location, to put their animal shelter, they're asking the council to review, the permitted uses in industrial zones.
It's about damn time.
So I make the motion that we review the city code 1017-1 with the possibility of adding animal shelter to our permitted uses.
I'll second.
That's the zoning committee again, you know.
It's the three of us, the dream team, here we come.
Combine that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Han,
Yes.
Von Redhorst,
Yes.
Blackwell,
Yes.
Hoag,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Shipman.
Yes.
Motion passes. And the next item on the agenda is in the event that we needed an executive session, which I don't believe that we need to tonight. So is there anyone who would like to make a motion on the last item?
Move to
Mayor?
adjourn?
Mayor,
Yes,
can I say something before you adjourn?
okay.
I would like to thank all these people for their help at our Weiser Dog Pound and Cat Shelter. They've done a great job helping Corey out. Corey's on vacation this week, and they've been feeding and watering the animals, and we really do appreciate it, so. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate all that you're doing and all that you've done. So, thank you.
I second.
You second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.